The glittering envelope landed on Clara's desk like a weapon wrapped in gold foil. Her supervisor's lips moved too fast, but she caught the essential words, "Gala. Tonight. You designed the poster." Clara's stomach dropped. A music gala. For someone who had never heard a single note in her 24 years, it felt like being invited to describe colors she couldn't see. "I shouldn't go," she signed, her hands trembling slightly. Her colleague Sarah laughed, the sound Clara felt more than heard, a vibration in the air that usually preceded cruelty. Sarah's lips formed words with exaggerated slowness. "Come on! You belong there." The emphasis on belong made Clara's skin prickle. She knew that tone. She'd learned to recognize mockery in the curl of a smile. The glint in someone's eye when they thought she couldn't hear their jokes, but she took the invitation anyway. That night, Clara stood in her small apartment, adjusting a borrowed navy dress in the mirror. The fabric felt wrong against her skin, too fine, too expensive, like a costume for a play she hadn't auditioned for. The hotel ballroom blazed with chandeliers and polished marble. Clara's heels clicked against the floor, each step measured and careful. Eyes turned toward her, then away, dismissing her in seconds. Her colleagues waved her to a table near the stage. She sat, scanning lips, catching fragments. Does she even know what's happening? How odd to invite her, the orchestra began. Vibrations pulsed through Clara's chest, subtle and real. But the melody everyone else sighed over remained locked away from her. She sipped water, focusing on the golden instruments reflecting light, trying to ignore the cruelty brewing behind her. Then she saw it. Her colleagues' lips forming words meant to wound. "She can't even hear what they're playing." Laughter rippled across the table. Another colleague waved at her in an exaggerated motion, inviting her to stand and clap, a performance designed to humiliate. Clara's hands trembled in her lap. She lowered her gaze, willing herself invisible, counting seconds until she could escape without tears. Then a shadow fell across her table. A man in a black tailored suit slid into the empty chair beside her. The laughter died instantly. Clara turned, startled. Damian Cross. Even someone who lived apart from headlines knew that name. Billionaire, CEO, untouchable. He didn't acknowledge the others. Instead, he leaned closer, his movements deliberate, his hands lifting into clear, precise shapes. 3 words in sign language. "I hear you." Clara's breath stopped. The ballroom vanished. The mockery dissolved. Only those 3 words remained, hanging in the air between them like a lifeline thrown into dark water. Her eyes burned. Someone had spoken to her. Not with pity. Not with mockery. With recognition. She stared at him, shaken. His gray eyes held hers with an intensity that cut through everything else. The table fell silent. Her colleagues shifted uncomfortably, their laughter strangled. A single tear slipped down Clara's cheek. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. When a woman in a red gown approached, her lips formed a question. Clara read easily. "I didn't know you brought someone." Damian's hand moved to rest lightly on the back of Clara's chair. His voice was low, but firm. "She's with me." The words rippled across the table like a decree. Her colleagues froze, disbelief replacing their amusement. After the gala, Damian guided Clara to a black Bentley waiting at the curb. She followed, her heart still racing, unable to process the shift in her reality. Inside the car, leather seats felt too rich beneath her hands. Damian sat across from her, his face unreadable. His hands lifted again. "You wonder why I helped you?" She nodded. "I had my reasons. First, because cruelty should never go unanswered." He paused. "Second, because you can help me as much as I helped you tonight." Clara frowned. Her lips formed silently. "Help you?" "There are rumors," he said aloud. "Shareholders whisper. The press speculates. They think something's wrong because I appear alone everywhere. It makes them restless." His gray eyes studied her. "Tonight, you gave me an idea." Clara's pulse hammered. "If you stand by me, even pretend, it will silence the noise." She signed slowly. "You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" Call it a performance. You get protection from people who mock you. I get distance from rumors. Both of us win. Clara shook her head. I can't. People will see through me. His eyes softened, barely perceptible. I once had someone who spoke this language with me every day. She's gone now. I thought I'd never use it again. He paused. But tonight I saw you. Something in Clara's chest cracked open. She wanted to ask about the woman, but the sharpness in his jaw warned her not to press. Instead, she signed carefully. Why me? His lips curved almost imperceptibly. Why not you? The car glided through empty streets. Clara looked at her reflection in the window. A simple girl suddenly entangled with a man who lived on magazine covers. I'm not asking for forever, Damian said. Only until it's no longer necessary. When that time comes, you walk away. Until then, I'll make sure no one dares to laugh at you again. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Her instincts screamed caution. But her heart remembered the warmth of those 3 words. Slowly, she lifted her hands. All right, I'll try. Damian inclined his head once, sealing the contract. The car stopped in front of her apartment building. Before she stepped out, his voice reached her, low and deliberate. Remember, Clara Hayes? It's only pretend. She turned, meeting his gaze one last time, and signed quietly. Then let's pretend well. For a moment, his expression shifted, almost a smile. She stepped onto the sidewalk, watching the Bentley slide back into darkness. Alone, she pressed a trembling hand to her chest. She'd just agreed to enter a world that wasn't hers, to play a role she wasn't sure she could handle. But beneath the fear, a spark flickered. A strange hope that maybe, just once, pretending might lead to something real. 1 week later, Clara stood in a boutique where price tags made her breath catch. The stylist smiled. Mr. Cross has already taken care of everything. Clara's cheeks burned with mixed gratitude and shame. She signed awkwardly. I can't afford any of this. The stylist simply guided her to a row of dresses that shimmered under soft lights by evening. Clara barely recognized herself. The silver dress hugged her frame like water. Her hair swept into a simple twist. She looked like someone who belonged in Damian's world. The black Bentley arrived promptly. Inside, Damian waited in a crisp dark suit, his tie a perfect line of silk. He looked at her once, gray eyes sharp. You look fine. Clara almost laughed at the understatement. Instead, she signed. Thank you. His hands returned the gesture with practiced precision, though his gaze quickly shifted to the window. When they arrived at the foundation hall, cameras flashed like lightning. Voices swirled. Reporters leaned forward. Hungry Clara stepped carefully. Her heel caught on the stone step. Her body tipped. Panic surged. In an instant, Damian's arm wrapped firmly around her waist, steadying her before she could fall. His hand remained at her side as he guided her upward. To onlookers, it was effortless composure. To Clara, it was the jolt of his grip, the warmth that made her heart race. Inside, chandeliers scattered golden light. Music vibrated faintly through the air. Clara scanned lips, piecing together fragments, always aware of Damian beside her. Guests greeted him with respect. When asked about Clara, he never faltered. Allow me to introduce Clara Hayes. His voice remained even, his hand resting casually against her back. My companion tonight? The word echoed strangely in Clara's chest. Companion. As the night wore on, Clara noticed something shifting. Damian's hand lingered longer at her waist. His gaze held hers a fraction too long when he thought she wasn't watching. During dinner, a woman in emerald green approached their table. Her lips moved with venom. Clara read easily. Damian, darling. I didn't realize you'd moved on so quickly. Damian's expression didn't change. Vanessa, after everything we shared. Vanessa's eyes cut to Clara. Though I suppose some men prefer women who can't ask difficult questions. Clara's stomach twisted. The cruelty was precise, surgical. Damian's hand found Clara's under the table. He squeezed once, firm and grounding. Then he stood, his voice cold. We're leaving. In the car, silence pressed heavy between them. Clara's hands trembled as she signed. Who was she? Damian stared out the window. For a long moment, Clara thought he wouldn't answer. Then his hands lifted, movements slower than usual. Waited. Ah, my ex-fiancée. She left when my sister died. He paused. My sister was deaf. Vanessa couldn't understand why I spent so much time learning sign language, why I put my sister's needs above social obligations. His jaw tightened. When my sister passed, Vanessa said I was finally free, that I could stop pretending to care about a world that didn't matter. Claire's breath caught. Her hands moved instinctively. I'm sorry, don't be. His gray eyes met hers, raw and unguarded for the first time. My sister taught me that silence isn't absence. It's just a different way of hearing. His voice dropped. When I saw you at that gala, being mocked, I saw her, and I couldn't walk away. Something shifted in the space between them. The pretense cracking, Clara's hand reached out, touching his arm. A question in her fingertips. Damian's hand covered hers. Held it. The touch lasted 3 seconds too long to be casual. When they arrived at her apartment, neither moved immediately. Clara, his voice was rough. This arrangement, it's supposed to be simple. She nodded, her heart pounding. But it's not feeling simple anymore. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened instantly. Have to go. Pulled away, the warmth evaporating. Emergency at the office. Clara stepped out of the car, confused by the sudden shift. She watched the Bentley disappear into the night. Inside her apartment, she found a package waiting. Inside was a framed photograph. Clara's hands shook as she lifted it. The photo showed Damian with a young woman. Both were signing, mid-conversation, laughing. His sister. A note fell from the frame, written in careful script. Her name was Lily. She would have liked you, Dee. Clara pressed the photo to her chest, tears streaming silently down her face. The next morning, Clara's phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk about Damian Cross. Meet me at Rosewood Cafe at noon. Come alone. This is about what he's not telling you, V. Clara's blood ran cold. Vanessa. She stared at the message, her finger hovering over the delete button. But curiosity, sharp and dangerous, kept her from pressing it. At 11:45, Clara found herself walking toward Rosewood Cafe, her heart hammering against her ribs. Vanessa sat at a corner table, elegant and composed. She didn't stand when Clara approached. Clara sat, signing. What do you want? Vanessa pulled out her phone, typed, and showed Clara the screen. I want to save you from making my mistake. Damian Cross doesn't love. He collects. You're not his companion. You're his latest project. A replacement for the sister he couldn't save. Clara's hands trembled. That's not true. Vanessa's smile was sharp. Isn't it? He learned sign language for Lily. He built a foundation for Lily. And now he's found you. A deaf girl he can save, just like he couldn't save her. She leaned forward. You're not a person to him. You're a second chance. And when he realizes you can't fill that void, he'll discard you like he did me. Clara stood abruptly, her chair scraping. She signed sharply. You don't know him. I knew him for 5 years. Vanessa's voice was ice. How long have you known him? 2 weeks? Clara turned to leave, but Vanessa's final words stopped her cold. Ask him about the contract, Clara, the real one. The one that expires in exactly 3 months. Ask him what happens to you when the performance ends. Clara's world tilted. She stumbled out of the cafe, her vision blurring. That night, when Damian arrived to pick her up for another event, Clara didn't smile. She signed one question. Her movements sharp. Is there a contract? One that ends in 3 months? Damian's face went carefully blank, and in that silence, Clara had her answer. Damian's silence stretched like a wound opening. Clara's hands moved again, sharper this time. Answer me. He stepped out of the car, closing the door with controlled precision. When he finally signed back, his movements were measured, deliberate. Yes, there's a contract. The admission hit Clara like a physical blow. She stumbled back against the brick wall of her building. 3 months, she signed, her hands shaking. "This ends in 3 months. It was always meant to be temporary." His voice was low, careful. "I told you that from the beginning," he said, until it was no longer necessary. Her hands flew faster now, anger giving them strength. "You made it sound mutual? Not like there was a deadline. Not like I was on a timer." Damian's jaw tightened. "The shareholders' meeting is in 3 months. Once I present as stable, once the merger goes through, the rumors die. That was always the goal. The goal." Clara's laugh was bitter, silent. "I'm a goal. A checkbox on your corporate strategy. You knew what this was." But something in his eyes betrayed him. Guilt, maybe. Or regret. "I knew it was pretend." Clara's hands trembled as she signed. "I didn't know it had an expiration date stamped on it like spoiled milk." She turned toward her building, but Damian caught her wrist. Gentle, but firm. "Clara, wait." She yanked free, signing with venom. "Vanessa was right. I'm just your replacement project. A way to feel like you're saving your sister all over again." "That's not true, isn't it?" Tears blurred her vision. "You saw a deaf girl being humiliated and you couldn't help yourself. The hero complex kicked in. But I'm not Lily, and you can't save me into loving you." The words hung between them, raw and bleeding. Damian's hands lifted, then fell. He opened his mouth, closed it. Finally, he signed slowly. "You're right. I can't." Clara's heart splintered. "But for what it's worth," he continued, his movements heavy, somewhere along the way, "this stopped being about Lily, and it stopped being pretend." Clara wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But Vanessa's words echoed louder. "Prove it," she signed. "Show me something real. Not a contract. Not a performance. Real." Damian stared at her, something breaking behind his eyes. "I don't know how." The admission was so quiet, so devastatingly honest, that Clara felt her anger crack. But before she could respond, headlights flooded the street. A sleek car pulled up. A man in an expensive suit stepped out, his expression cold. "Mr. Cross, we need you at the office immediately. The board is meeting. There's been a leak." Damian's attention snapped away from Clara. "What kind of leak?" "About your arrangement." The man's gaze flicked to Clara with barely concealed disdain. "Someone sent evidence to the shareholders. Photos, messages, proof this relationship is fabricated. They're calling for your removal." Clara's stomach dropped. "Vanessa," Damian's face hardened into ice. Without a word to Clara, he strode toward the car. "Wait." Clara ran after him, grabbing his arm. "What happens now?" He looked down at her hand on his sleeve, then met her eyes. For a moment, the mask slipped. She saw fear there, and something else. Desperation. "I fixed this." His voice was steel. "Stay here. Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to anyone." Damian Buddy was already in the car, the door slamming shut. The vehicle disappeared into the night. Leaving Clara alone on the empty street, she stood there, shaking, her mind racing. Then her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. A video file. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The video showed Damian in his office, weeks ago, before the gala. Before he'd ever met Clara, he was speaking to someone off camera. The audio was clear. "I need someone. Anyone. Preferably vulnerable. Someone who won't ask questions." His voice was clinical, detached. "The shareholders want stability. A relationship will give them that. Find me a candidate. Make it convincing." Clara's world shattered. A second text arrived. "Still think he chose you?" Clara sank to the sidewalk, the phone slipping from her fingers. It had all been calculated. Every moment. Every gesture. Every word signed in the language that made her feel seen. She'd been selected, vetted, chosen for her vulnerability. The door to her building opened. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stepped out. Her lips moved with concern Clara couldn't focus on. Mrs. Chen's hands touched Clara's shoulders, guided her inside, up the stairs, into her apartment. Clara moved mechanically. Her body numbed inside. She finally broke. Silent sobs racked her chest, her hands clutching at nothing. She'd let herself hope. She'd let herself believe that someone like Damian Cross could see her as more than a project. More than a reminder of his dead sister. She'd been a fool. Hours passed. Night deepened. Clara lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed again. And again. Messages from Damian. Clara? Please answer. I can explain. That video is out of context. Clara. She deleted them all. At 2 a.m. Someone knocked on her door. Persistent. Urgent. Clara ignored it. The knocking continued. Then stopped. A piece of paper slid under her door. Clara stared at it for a long moment before finally getting up. Her hand shook as she unfolded it. Damian's handwriting rushed and desperate. You asked me to prove it was real? Meet me tomorrow at the place where we first spoke. The Gala Hotel. Noon. I'll show you everything. The truth. No more contracts. No more pretending. If you don't come, I'll understand. But please, Clara, give me one chance to show you I'm not what you think I am. D. Clara crumpled the note in her fist. She should throw it away. She should block his number, forget his name. Rebuild the walls he'd somehow slipped through. But as she lay back down, the note still clutched in her hand. One question burned through her mind. What if he was telling the truth? What if, somehow in the middle of all the lies and contracts and performances, something real had grown? At 11:30 the next morning, Clara stood in front of her mirror, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater. Not the expensive clothes Damian had bought her. Not the costume, just herself. She looked at her reflection and made a choice. At 11:55, she walked into the hotel lobby. Damian stood by the grand staircase where he'd once caught her from falling. He looked wrecked. Suit wrinkled, tie loose, eyes red-rimmed and hollow. When he saw her, his entire body sagged with relief. His hands lifted slowly. You came. Clara's hands remained at her sides. I'm here. Now prove it. Damian nodded once. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. The contract Vanessa told you about. He handed it to Clara. Read it. Clara opened the folder, her eyes scanning the legal text. 3 months. Termination clause. Financial compensation for Clara's participation. Her stomach turned. Keep reading, Damian signed. Clara flipped to the second page and froze. An amendment. Dated 1 week ago. In Damian's handwriting. Contract null and void. All terms dissolved. Clara Hayes is no longer bound by any agreement. She is free to leave at any time with no financial or social penalty. This arrangement continues only if both parties choose it willingly. Signed, Damian Cross. Clara's hands trembled. When did you do this? The night you touched my arm in the car. His eyes held hers, raw and unguarded. The night I realized I didn't want you there because of a contract. I wanted you there because you made me feel less alone. Tears blurred Clara's vision. But there's more. Pulled up an email and showed her. I'm stepping down from the CEO position. The board wanted me to deny the relationship was fake. To lie. To use you to save my reputation. I thought it tightened. I refused. I told them everything. The truth. All of it. I'm out. Clara's breath stopped. You gave up everything. Not everything. His hands moved slowly, each sign deliberate. I gave up a company. I kept my integrity. And I'm keeping the chance, however small, that you might forgive me. Damian, Clara's voice broke. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He stepped closer. Because you were right. I can't save you into loving me. But maybe, if I'm very lucky, I can earn it. Clara stared at him, this powerful man who'd just burned his entire empire for a truth that would destroy him. Why? She signed, tears streaming now. Why would you sacrifice everything for this? For me? Damian's answer was simple, devastating, because pretending with you felt more real than anything I'd ever had. And I'd rather have one honest moment with you than a lifetime of lies without you. Clara closed the distance between them. Her hands rose to his face, trembling. "That video," she signed, "the one Vanessa sent, was recorded before I met you." His eyes searched hers desperately. "I was planning to find someone, anyone. You're right about that. But then I saw you at that gala, and everything changed. You weren't just someone. You were you." "How do I know that's true?" "You don't." His honesty was brutal. "You have to decide if you trust me. And after everything, I know I don't deserve it." Clara's hands hovered in the space between them. Caught between anger and hope, between walking away and falling completely. Finally, she signed one word. "Stay." Damian's eyes closed, relief washing over his face, but when he opened them again, Clara saw something else there. Fear. "There's one more thing," he signed. "Something I should have told you from the beginning." Clara's heart sank. "What?" His hands moved slowly, weighted with dread. "Vanessa didn't just leak the contract. She's threatening to destroy your career. She has connections at the foundation. They're planning to fire you, to blacklist you from every design firm in the city." Clara's world tilted. "When?" "Tomorrow morning." The betrayal wasn't just from Damian. It was from her entire world, closing in. Clara stepped back, her hands falling. "Then I guess we both lose everything." Damian's face cracked. "I'm so sorry." Clara looked at him, this man who'd signed "I hear you" and changed everything. This man who'd both saved and destroyed her in equal measure. "So am I." She turned toward the door. Behind her, Damian's voice raw and breaking. "Clara, please. Let me fix this." She stopped, didn't turn around. Her hands signed without looking back. "Some things can't be fixed, Damian. Some things just break." And she walked out into the cold afternoon. Leaving him standing alone by the stairs where this had all begun, Clara didn't sleep that night. She sat at her small desk, her laptop glowing in the darkness. Drafting a resignation letter she'd never thought she'd have to write at 7 a.m., her phone buzzed. Her supervisor. "Don't come in today. We'll send your belongings." Ain't no explanation. No meeting. Just erasure. Clara stared at the message until the screen went dark. A knock at her door made her jump. She opened it to find a courier holding a large envelope. Inside were legal documents. A lawsuit. Vanessa was suing her for fraud and emotional distress, claiming Clara had manipulated Damian and destroyed Vanessa's chance at reconciliation. The amount demanded was more money than Clara would make in 5 years. Her hands shook. As she set the papers down, the walls of her tiny apartment suddenly felt suffocating. Another knock. Clara almost didn't answer. But when she opened the door, it wasn't a courier. It was Damian's assistant. The same man who'd collected him that night, double quotes, Ms. Hayes. He handed her a folder. "Mr. Cross wanted you to have this." Clara took it warily. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside was a check, an amount that would cover the lawsuit 3 times over. More money than Clara had ever seen. Beneath it, a note in Damian's handwriting. "This isn't payment. It's protection. Use it to fight Vanessa. Use it to start over somewhere she can't reach you. Use it however you need. You don't owe me anything. You never did. D." Clara's eyes burned. The assistant cleared his throat. "There's more, Ms. Hayes. Mr. Cross has spent the last 12 hours calling every contact he has. 3 design firms have already reached out with job offers for you. He made it clear that anyone who blacklists you will answer to him personally." The man's expression softened slightly. "He's burning every bridge he has left. For you." Clara's hand covered her mouth. "Why is he doing this?" The assistant's smile was small, sad. "I've worked for Mr. Cross for 8 years. I've never seen him like this. Whatever you think of him, Ms. Hayes, I can tell you this much is true. He's in love with you, and it's destroying him." After the assistant left, Clara sat on her floor, the check in one hand, Damian's note in the other. He was sacrificing everything. His company, his reputation, his connections. All to protect her from the consequences of his own mistakes, and she'd walked away from him. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're tougher to break than I thought, but you will break. I always win. V. Rage, hot and bright, surged through Clara's chest. She was done being the victim in someone else's game. She grabbed her coat and walked out the door. 20 minutes later, Clara stood in the lobby of Vanessa's high-rise building. Security tried to stop her, but she held up her phone, showing the threatening messages. Tell her Clara Hayes is here. Tell her I'm not leaving until she faces me. 10 minutes passed. Then Vanessa appeared, elegant in a cream suit, her smile sharp. Clara, how desperate of you to come here. Clara's hands moved with precision. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to make a deal. Vanessa's eyebrow arched. What could you possibly offer me? I'll leave Damian. The words hurt to sign, but Clara kept her expression steady. Publicly. I'll release a statement saying it was all fake, that I was hired, that I'm walking away. You get what you want. Damian's reputation is destroyed. He looks like a fraud. Vanessa's eyes gleamed. And what do you get? You drop the lawsuit. You stop blacklisting me. And you leave Damian alone, completely. Why would I agree to that? I have you cornered. Clara stepped closer. Because I'll also give you this. She pulled out her phone and played a recording. Vanessa's voice, clear and venomous, admitting she'd fabricated evidence, bribed board members, and threatened Clara. Recorded our cafe meeting? Clara signed. Every word. If you don't agree, this goes to the police. And to every media outlet in the city. Vanessa's face went white. Then read, you little think carefully, Clara interrupted. You want to win. I'm giving you a win. Damian loses everything. His company, his reputation, me. You get to watch him fall. All you have to do is let me walk away free. Vanessa's jaw clenched. She stared at Clara for a long, tense moment. Finally, she pulled out her phone and made a call. Drop the lawsuit against Clara Hayes. Immediately. Yes. Do it now. She hung up and turned back to Clara. You have 24 hours to make your statement. If you don't, the deal is off. Clara nodded once and turned to leave. Vanessa's voice stopped her. You really love him, don't you? That's why you're doing this. You think you're saving him? Clara turned back, her hands moving with quiet certainty. I'm not saving him. I'm setting him free. From you, from the lies. And from me, she walked out without looking back. That evening, Clara sat at her desk, writing the statement that would destroy Damian and free them both, like Clara Hayes. Admit that my relationship with Damian Cross was contractual and fabricated. I was compensated to pose as his companion. The relationship was never genuine. I am terminating this arrangement and apologize for any deception. Damian Cross is not responsible for my actions. Her hand shook as she typed. Every word felt like a knife. She attached the statement to an email, which addressed to the major news outlets. Her finger hovered over send. A knock at her door made her freeze. She opened it to find Damian standing there, looking more wrecked than she'd ever seen him. His eyes went to her laptop screen, visible from the doorway. His face drained of color. Clara, what are you doing? She stepped back, letting him in. He walked to the laptop, reading the statement. No, his voice was hoarse. No, Clara, don't do this. Her hands moved quickly. It's the only way. Vanessa drops everything. You get a chance to rebuild without her destroying you. And I get to start over. By lying? His hands flew. By destroying what we actually had? What we had was built on a lie in the first place. Not anymore. Damian moved closer, his eyes desperate. Not for weeks now. You know that. I know you know that. Clara's composure cracked. It doesn't matter what we know. The world sees a fraud. And I won't let her use me to destroy you completely. So you'll destroy yourself instead. His hands trembled. You'll let everyone think you're a liar? That you sold yourself for money? If that's what it takes. Clara. Damian grabbed her shoulders gently. I've lost my company. I've lost my reputation. I can rebuild those things. But if I lose you, if you sacrifice yourself for me, I'll never forgive myself. And I'll never be whole again. Tears streamed down Clara's face. You don't understand. She'll never stop. She'll keep coming after both of us unless I do this, and we fight her together. His hands moved with fierce intensity. Not like this. Not with you falling on a sword meant for me. I've already made the deal. Then break it. His eyes burned into hers. We'll find another way. There is no other way. There's always another way. Damian's hands cupped her face. Look at me. Really look at me? Do you trust me? Clara's breath hitched. I don't know. That's fair. His thumb brushed away her tears. But do you believe I love you? The question hung between them, raw and terrifying. Clara's hands lifted slowly. Do you? Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. I love you, Clara Hayes. Not because you remind me of my sister. Not because you're a project. Not because of any contract or performance. I love you because you're brave and stubborn, and you see through every wall I've ever built. I love you because when you sign to me, I hear you in ways I haven't heard anyone since Lily died. And I love you because you make me want to be better than the man who put you in this position in the first place. Clara's entire body shook. I love you too, she signed, the admission breaking something open in her chest. That's why I have to do this. No. Damian pulled her close. If you love me, then stay. Fight with me. Let me prove we can win this together. Clara buried her face in his chest. His heart beat strong and real beneath her cheek. How? She signed against his shirt. How do we win? Damian pulled back enough to look at her. I have one move left. One connection Vanessa doesn't know about. But it's risky. And it means trusting me completely. Clara searched his eyes. What is it? His hands moved slowly. Vanessa's bribed board members to vote against me. But I kept the evidence. If we go public with it, we expose her for corporate fraud. She goes to prison. But it also means exposing the company's corruption. It could destroy the business my sister and I built together. Everything Lily worked for. Clara's breath caught. You'd sacrifice Lily's legacy for me? Lily's legacy was never about the company. His eyes were clear, certain. It was about treating people with dignity. About seeing the invisible. If I let Vanessa destroy you to save a business, I'm destroying everything Lily actually stood for. Clara's hands trembled. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She looked at her laptop screen. At the statement that would save him, but destroy her truth. Then she looked at Damian. This complicated man who'd learned sign language for his sister and used it to see Clara completely. She reached over and closed the laptop. Okay. Her hands signed with new strength. Let's fight. Together. Damian's entire body sagged with relief. Then he kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, gentle, reverent. When he pulled back, his hands moved with quiet intensity. No more pretending? Clara's answer was simple, honest, terrifying. No more pretending. The next morning, Damian held a press conference. Clara stood beside him, their hands intertwined. He exposed everything. The corruption, the bribes, Vanessa's threats and schemes. The evidence was damning, irrefutable. By noon, Vanessa was being investigated. The company's board was in chaos, and Damian and Clara's faces were on every news outlet, but they were facing it together. That evening, as they sat in Clara's small apartment, exhausted and uncertain of what came next, Damian signed one question. Was it worth it? Clara looked at him. This man who'd given up everything for a truth that might still destroy them both. Her hands moved with quiet certainty. Ask me again tomorrow. Smiled. Actually smiled. And if tomorrow is worse, then I'll tell you the day after. She leaned against him. We have time now. Real time. No contracts. No deadlines. Damian's arm wrapped around her. What if we lose everything? Clara's hands found his in the dimness. Then we lose it together, and we build something new. But as they sat in the quiet, Clara's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think you've won? You haven't? This isn't over? Not even close. V. Clara's blood ran cold. She showed Damian the message. His jaw tightened. She's not going down quietly. What do we do? Damian stood, his expression hardening into something Clara hadn't seen before. Something dangerous. We end this. Permanently. He turned to her, his eyes blazing. There's one person Vanessa can't touch. One person who has the power to destroy her completely, who... Damian's answer made Clara's heart stop. My father. The man who founded the company. The man I swore I'd never speak to again. Clara stood slowly. Why did you swear that? His hands moved heavily. Because he's the reason my sister died. And asking for his help means forgiving him for it. The estate sat on the edge of the city, surrounded by iron gates and old money silence. Clara's hand tightened around Damian's as they walked up the stone steps. You don't have to do this, she signed. His jaw was set. Yes, I do. The door opened before they could knock. A man in his 70s stood there, gray hair swept back, eyes the same shade as Damian's. Sharp, calculating, cold. Damian. The name was spoken like a judgment. It's been 5 years, I know. His father's gaze shifted to Clara. And you brought a guest, Clara Hayes. Damian's hand moved to the small of her back. We need your help. His father's expression didn't change. Come in. The study was all dark wood and leather, expensive and suffocating. Clara sat on the edge of a chair while Damian remained standing.
Now, Vanessa.
Sterling is threatening Clara. She's using corporate connections to destroy her career and file false lawsuits. Damian's voice was steady, but Clara could see the tension in his shoulders. You have the power to stop her. One word from you and she backs down? His father poured himself a drink. And why would I do that? Because I'm asking. You haven't asked me for anything in 5 years? Not since Lily's funeral. Not since you walked out of this house and told me you never wanted to see me again. The old man's eyes were hard. Why now? Damian's hands clenched. Because Clara doesn't deserve to be collateral damage in Vanessa. Vendetta and Lily didn't deserve to die. Because I refused to cancel one business, meeting to take her to the hospital, his father's. The voice was flat, emotionless. Is that what you're not saying? The room went silent. Clara's eyes widened. She looked at Damian, seeing the devastation carved into his face. She called you Damian, said quietly. She had a seizure. She needed help. And you told her to wait because the merger was more important. I made a choice. His father set down his glass. The wrong choice, as it turned out. But I can't undo it. No, you can't. Damian's voice cracked. But you can do this. You can protect Clara from becoming another casualty of your business empire. Yes. His father studied them both for a long moment. What makes her different from all the other people who've been hurt by the choices we make? Clara's hands moved before she could stop herself. Because I chose to be here. Your daughter didn't choose to need help. But I'm choosing to stand with Damian. And I'm asking you, not as someone who deserves your help, but as someone who loves your son. Please. Damian stared at her, something raw breaking across his face. His father's expression shifted. Just slightly. You sign, Clara nodded. Lily tried to teach me. The old man's voice dropped. I never had time to learn. I told her we'd do it later. There was always later. He looked at Damian. Until there wasn't. Damian's eyes closed. I'll make the calls, his father said finally. Vanessa will back off. The lawsuits will disappear. But Damian, he waited until his son looked at him. This doesn't erase what I did. Or didn't do, I know. And I don't expect forgiveness. Good. Damian's voice was rough. Because I don't know if I have it to give. His father nodded once. Fair enough. They left the estate in silence. In the car, Clara took Damian's hand and held it tightly. Are you okay? She signed. He stared out the window. I spent 5 years hating him. 5 years blaming him for Lily's death. And in 5 minutes, I just asked him for help. He did it for me, I did it for us. He turned to her. But it doesn't make it easier. Clara leaned her head against his shoulder. Forgiveness isn't an on-off switch. It's a process. Maybe someday you'll forgive him. Maybe you won't. But either way, you get to choose. Damian's arm wrapped around her. When did you get so wise? I've had a good teacher. She smiled slightly. a stubborn, complicated billionaire who learned sign language and taught me that being seen is different from being saved. 3 days later, Vanessa's lawsuit was dropped. The board investigation cleared Damian of any wrongdoing and exposed Vanessa's corruption. She was facing criminal charges. Clara received job offers from 4 different firms, and Damian's father called a press conference, announcing his son would be reinstated as CEO. But when the offer came, Damian turned it down. Clara found him in her apartment that evening, sitting on the floor with papers spread around him. "What are you doing?" She signed. He looked up, his eyes bright. "Starting something new. A foundation for accessibility in the arts. Music programs taught through vibration and visual interpretation. Design workshops for deaf and hard-of-hearing artists." He pulled her down beside him. "I want to build something Lily would have loved. Something real." Clara's throat tightened. "And the company? Let my father run it, or sell it. I don't care anymore." His hands moved with quiet certainty. "I spent my whole life building an empire I didn't actually want. It's time to build something I do." "What about the money? The lifestyle?" Damian smiled. "I have enough. More than enough. And honestly, the last few weeks in your tiny apartment, eating takeout on the floor, fighting Vanessa together, that was the most alive I've felt in years." Clara laughed, tears streaming down her face. "You're insane, probably." He cupped her face. "But I'm insane about you. So it balances out." She kissed him then, deep and real, and without any pretense. When they broke apart, she signed against his lips. "No more contracts? No more contracts? No more deadlines? Just the rest of our lives." Clara pulled back, her hands moving seriously. "I need you to understand something. I'm not Lily. I'll never be Lily. And I can't replace what you lost. I don't want you to." His eyes held hers. "Lily taught me how to see people who are invisible to everyone else. But you, Clara, you taught me how to be seen, how to be vulnerable, how to be real." His hands moved slowly, each sign deliberate. "I'll always love Lily, always miss her. But I love you differently, completely, for exactly who you are." Clara's hands trembled. "What if it's hard? What if we fight? What if people judge us? Then it's hard. Then we fight. Then let them judge." Smiled. "I didn't sacrifice everything just to give up at the first obstacle. You're impossible, and you love me anyway." She did. God help her, she did. 6 months later, Clara stood in a gallery, her design work displayed on pristine white walls. Damian's foundation had commissioned her first major project, a series of posters for their inaugural accessibility concert. People moved through the space, studying her work. Some signed their appreciation. Others spoke in voices she felt but couldn't hear. Damian appeared beside her, his hand finding hers naturally. "Proud of you," he signed. "Proud of us," she corrected. He kissed her temple. "Come on, there's someone I want you to meet." He led her to an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes. She smiled when she saw Clara and began to sign. "You're Clara. Damian's told me so much about you." Clara glanced at Damian, confused. "This is Margaret," he signed. "Lily's sign language teacher. She's been helping me with the foundation's curriculum." Margaret's hands moved with grace. "Lily would have loved what you two are building. She always believed that silence had its own language, its own beauty." Clara's eyes burned. "Thank you." "No." Margaret's expression was warm. "Thank you for reminding her brother that life doesn't end when sound does. It just begins differently." After Margaret left, Clara and Damian stood in the gallery, surrounded by her art and his dream, built together from the ruins of pretense and pain. "Do you ever regret it?" Clara signed. "Giving up the company? The power?" Damian was quiet for a moment. Then his hands moved with absolute certainty. "I regret a lot of things. I regret that I needed a contract to justify meeting you. I regret that I let Vanessa hurt you. I regret the years I wasted building an empire I didn't care about." It turned to face her fully. "But I will never, ever regret choosing you. Choosing us. Choosing this." Clara's hands rose to his face. I love you, I know, I smiled. You told me? In 1,000 different ways. Even when you hated me, I never hated you. You came close, she laughed. Maybe a little, his arms wrapped around her, holding her close. What do you want to do now? Tonight? Tomorrow? Next year? Clara leaned back, her hands moving thoughtfully. I want to keep creating, keep building, keep proving that silence isn't empty. It's full of everything people are too loud to hear. Done. His eyes were bright. Anything else? She smiled. I want to wake up every morning and remember that someone chose me. Not because I was convenient or useful or reminded them of someone else, but because I was me. Just me, Clara. Damian's hands moved slowly, weighted with emotion. You were always just you. That's all you ever needed to be. They stood there, two people who'd found each other in a moment of cruelty and built something real from the performance. The gallery lights dimmed as evening fell. Guests began to leave. Soon it was just the two of them in the quiet space. Clara turned to the window. Watching the city lights flicker to life, Damian moved behind her, his arms circling her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. Do you hear that? He signed against her hand. She smiled. I can't hear anything exactly. His hands moved again. That's the sound of peace, of choosing right, of home. Clara turned in his arms. I hear you. The words that had changed everything. The words that had started as pretense and become truth. Damian's eyes held hers, gray and clear and completely unguarded. And I hear you, he signed back. They kissed as the city hummed around them. To people who'd learned that being heard had nothing to do with sound, it had everything to do with being seen, being chosen, and being loved for exactly who you were. Not despite the silence, but because of everything the silence held. The end.